The chairman of Sunrise Power and Transmission Company Limited, Leno Adesanya, has written President Bola Tinubu seeking an amicable settlement to the dispute between the federal government and his company over the Mambila hydropower project in Taraba State. The dispute is the subject of arbitration at the International Chamber of Commerce Court of Arbitration in Paris, where the promoters of Sunrise are said to be seeking a compensation of $2.3 billion for the Nigerian government's alleged violation of a $6 billion contract agreement. Adesanya had reportedly claimed that former President Olusegun Obasanjo's administration had awarded the contract in 2002, but Obasanjo accuses the Minister of Power and Steel under his administration, Dr. Olu Agunloye, of fraudulently awarding the contract for the project without the approval of the Federal Executive Council.
Right, Dr. Sam Amadi, here we are.
Yeah, Arise News analyst and former chairman and CEO of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. Thanks for being on the news. This is familiar to you, isn't it? 2003 is a long way. But when you hear stories like this, for me as a Nigerian and as a journalist, is all too familiar. A tale of scheming individuals, broken promises, fraud, inept officials, a case in point, P&ID. Are there parallels to this?
Of course, there are, and they are parallel to several other things, and they define the kind of they are symptomatic of the Nigerian case. So, for example, if you look at the names, the companies themselves involved in these major infrastructure projects in Nigeria, they don't have track records in terms of what they've done elsewhere. Not just this particular one. It's a typical Nigerian thing, and it has a historical, it has a history. That history is, at the time in this country, we had what we call indigenous decree, which good thing, it required all foreign companies to have a Nigerian, component. I mean, a majority to operate.
Global content.
So it made us, like you go to Kenya, you go to South Africa, you see European dominated. Nigerian economy is Nigerian dominated. But the reverse side of it is that these foreign companies started looking for Nigerians in power. So you see Julius Berger came to Nigeria. The chairman of Julius Berger after war was the Minister of Works who gave them the contract. Now it has become a point where the Nigerians, when we did power sector, Nigerian companies were everywhere. They did the work. If you look at there's basically no foreign company today in the power sector. Even those that say they have MOUs, there's no commitment. So Nigerians are big, but the problem is that they don't get the job done because, so it creates a corruption, a rentier state where each of these contracts, people go in there, get big money, can't deliver. Contrast with Egypt and other people, they did 5,000, 10,000 megawatts in 5 years. Siemens did it. You see, top guys who did it, top companies globally. So what this tells us is that apart from the modeling error with our quick to privatize, which I criticize, I said, look, if you study what happens globally in terms of the literature of development of this kind of infrastructure, you need to make it slowly, you need to build corporate culture, regulatory environment, then you privatize. But apart from that modeling error, the biggest problem was project management. Contracts failed severally. If you watch NIPP, between 2005 and 2010, we should have had 5,000 harvested. First phase, second phase before 2015. Now we don't even have all those, 5,000 struggling.
It's interesting you say that because I was going to ask exactly what this, Mambila hydropower project would have done, for the Nigeria's power sector. On the one hand, I'd like you to still expatiate on that. And then the Leno Adesanya, who's written President Bola Tinubu seeking for an amicable settlement to the dispute. What's your reading of this? Okay,
first is the Mambila should have given us 3,000 plus megawatts. That's the nameplate capacity. Again, I'm not even sure it has taken off. But the last time I was, before when Fashion was there, they're just Mambila endless consultancy plan, endless feasibility study. It's more than 10 years at least of real talk about Mambila. There was an issue with the compensation. The community said you have to compensate them in dollars. So by the time we left, so right now there's no even real project going on. Okay, but again, back to the issue of settlement. So I think it's good to explore, and I think it's in the interest of Sunshine perhaps to seek out of court settlement because it doesn't look the evidence with the two presidents, denying saying we never approved means that this approval, even they had a formality of a fake approval, perhaps, or a ministerial approval, didn't quite, the president has said on oath that they never approved it. So there are uphill attacks against them.
So what kind of settlement are we looking at, if at all?
The first settlement will be financial compensation. I mean, they're going to argue that they have done some consultancy, hired experts, because look, most of these jobs, Nigerians, they get a job and look for foreign partners. So they have spent money prospecting, transactional costs. So they're going to ask for some kind of compensation, okay? Because that's actually part of what they went to in the case against Nigeria, to say, okay, look, the contract, you have canceled the contract, but we have expended these billions. Now, the question is, in my own sense, the federal government has the aces, they have the aces, and so that would be a case of, we've suffered, we got this guarantee, we got this assurance that the contract was okay, then we have expended costs, give us back. So there could be some financial, mitigating their losses.
Let me reiterate one of the questions that was asked that you seem to have omitted. The chairman of the company is talking about amicable settlements, out-of-court settlement. Given the delays and the disputes and the time it has taken, should Nigeria consider out-of-court settlement? Because some would say this is fraud. If it did not go through due process of the Federal Executive Council,
why settle?
And the president at the time is accusing his Minister of Power of fraud. And there are some cases. Should President Bola Tinubu settle?
I don't look. Like I said, this is a case that they're going to lose, because if there was no clear due process approval of the federal government, in fact, under the Constitution is the President under Section 5 who has approval. Then the BBPE law has provided how it can be gotten through the FEC, through due process approvals and all that. If they don't have that, they have no case. Again, so I don't think you need to out-of-court settlement. Look, either there was a real contract or there was not. But the bigger story here is we need to clean how we do contract in this country. The federal government seems to exist as a rent-seeking platform. So whoever comes to power, we've talked about several cases, contracts cancelled, new ones, even those that went through due process. For the one of cargo monitoring that we talked about, cargo tracking. Yeah. It's that the idea of being in power in Nigeria is the idea of capturing the contracts. And so those three damages is the source of the public corruption, is the source of the infrastructure failures, because the consideration for one of these contracts is basically how do we get our payback. So if a serious country wants to have 20,000 megawatts, they will contract it to established foreign, this time, companies that have the track record. I mean, we've not done power here before. So why would somebody go and award the Nigerian upstart, a big guy who has
never done
power, to go and build power for you? That's why it never worked. So corruption is actually the problem with infrastructure failure. Those countries that don't have that public sector, massive corruption like we do, they sit back and plot in 5 years. It's turnkey. It gets done.
But there was a lot of expectations for this project. And Dr. Amadi, you were in NEC at that time when this happened. What was your sense of it at that time? I mean, if you could give us insider gist. When this project came on board, I mean, did you know about it? What did you hear about it? And when you hear the president versus his minister arguing over this.
Well, see how it works, okay? The project was there before we came to NEC, always on drawing board. For example, we're talking about super grid. It has been there for over 20 years. A particular regime can bring it up and say, okay, let's start work on this. And they have several layers of what they call business plans. You do all kinds of simulations and modeling, consultancies to develop work on it. So by the time we were there, it's usually a Ministry of Power project, because it's a project based, it's not regulatory. But what NEC does is to first, before they license you, they will be able to know that all those regulations are in. But so what we hear is this is a massive project. And like I told you, the language of project in Nigeria, once it's big, is to look at how much you can make from it. And so they begin to put in, okay, I'll give an example. When we did the TTCN with Manitoba Hydro, trying to run it, it came out to become a problem, because who brought Manitoba? So Nigerians will go and do a MOU with somebody and bring them in. And that process means that there will be no due diligence. So my sense is that we get this problem because there are too many people who are contracting for who to bring in to deliver project. And so you don't have a central project management office that sits and says, a developmental state must have coherence. This is an office that says, this is a project. We go and look for the guys. This is not about everybody that's why Nigeria has too many billionaires, too many private jets, too many Lamborghini. For an economy that has no production. That means people are taking for the public sector. That's what it is.
I mean, Obasanjo in his indigenization policy did a good thing, right? But the outcome,
absolutely. So
it's not
good.
Yeah. So how does Nigeria protect herself in this kind of situation? Because ordinarily you'd say, look, if you engage foreigners, then you have this situation. But these are Nigerians involved, and we just never get projects, off the ground.
Well,
it takes forever.
You can't have it. We are a proud people that we have Nigeria economy. This economy is Nigerianized 100%. You don't even find a big player here. That's why I have the richest man in Africa. It's not for joke. It's because of the knock-on effect of that policy, that decree that military brought in. It created Nigeria billionaires overnight. Permanent secretaries, directors became billionaires. The reverse side is this. We now have a very corrupt public sector. We now have billionaires, companies that have no capacity to deliver. So you might think that a Nigerian company that's maybe net worth is about, let's say, $200 million, okay, says in infrastructure. He has no infrastructural competencies derived from work done. But if you contrast it with a company that has less portfolio elsewhere, you can see they built their portfolio through real work. That's the difference. So if you ask me, you have to make a trade-off. Do you want to develop infrastructure as a country that wants to fast-track development? Then don't think too much about Nigerianizing this at this point. You can Nigerianize it strategically in terms of components. So, but you get these guys who can get the job done. And don't like people do rent seeking. Bring these people, couple that, people come to the job. The name self, you just wake up, you don't hear a name doing 200 billion.
I guess apart from corruption being the issue, we also have an issue of lack of patriotism. We have government officials who go into sign this contract on behalf of the country
against their own country.
Against their own country.
Many legal advice. So that's why I've always asked that the legal MBA should make a law. So any legal advisor in public sector who gives a wrong advice, that you have a skin in the game, you'll be punished.
Pay for it.
You can't just sit and say, I've been advised by legal advisor.
Dr. Sam Amadi, there are so many dimensions to this, but we have to say thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully, the Mambila Power Project will launch eventually.